Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Salam Adini. The topic before us today is differential calculus. So we'll be looking at the differential calculus. And what is the meaning of differential calculus? Differential calculus simply means a rate of change of one variable with respect to another variable. And one thing we need to know is there is nothing called dy dx. We don't have anything called dy dx. What we have basically is the d of the left hand side over the d of the right hand side. That means if y is on the left hand side and if x is on the right hand side, we are going to have dy dx. And if u is on the left hand side and if a is on the right hand side, we are going to have what? Du over dA. And if v is on the right hand side and if t is on the right hand side, we are going to have what? The v over the t. And that is the basis of what? Of dy dx. Another thing we need to know about dy dx is the origin of dy dx started from the word of slope. And what is the meaning of slopes? Slopes also means what? The gradient. And when we are talking of the gradient also means what? It means m, and our m stands for what? Our dy over dx. And your dy dx is still the same thing as the change in your y. Sorry, it means the change in y over what? Change in x. It also means what? The y2 minus the y1 over the x2 minus the x1. This is 2-point form. It also means what? Y minus y1 over what? X minus x1. It also means what? Tan theta. So you can see how we are breaking down dy dx, slope, gradient, and our dy dx, the change in y over change in x, the y2 minus y1 over what? X2 minus x1, y minus y1 over what? X minus x1, and we have tan theta. And when we are talking of change in y over change in x, what is the meaning of change in y over change in x? Change in y simply means a small increment in y. While our change in x means what? A small increment in what? In x. And this is the basis of dy dx. Now for us to differentiate, we have two methods for differentiation. And the first method is what we term as what? Differentiating from the first principle. And the second one is what we term as what? Differentiation, making use of what? Of the formula method. And to start with, we are going to start with differentiation from the first principle. And what is the meaning of first principle? For us to differentiate with the first principle, we need to know a simple formula. And what is the formula? We have it as if y is a function of x, therefore our dy dx, which is y prime or f prime x, will be given as what? F into what? S plus h minus f of x divided by h. And this is the formula for us to differentiate from the first principle. Now let's look at few applications. We have y is equals to cs plus d. They said we should find our y prime from the first principle. So making use of the first principle, we have it as what? Y prime is equals to what? F of x plus h. That means anywhere we are seeing x, we are going to add what? X, h to it. And now we have d minus f of x. And what is f of x? That will give us what? Cs plus d divided by what? H. And that's all. So let's simplify. This will give us y prime is equals to what? Cs plus ch plus d minus s prime. Cs minus d over what? Over h. And what do we have? This man and this man will give us 0. This and this will give us 0. And that will give us what? Ch over h. And what is our y prime? H will cancel h. That means our y prime is what? Is c. Now let's look at this again. We have y is equals to 1 over x squared. They said we should find the value of y prime from the first principle. And how can we solve it? The same thing, y prime will give us what? The formula says that what? F of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. So let's proceed. That will give us y prime is equal to what is f of x plus h? That means anywhere we are seeing x, we are going to add h to it. And that will give us 1 over what? X plus h all squared minus 1, f of x will give us what? 1 over what? Over x squared. Now divided by h. And then we simplify. So that will give us y prime is equals to, now from this, what is the LCM? That will give us x squared into what? Into x plus h all squared. This we cancel this, then we have it as what? S squared minus this, we cancel this, then we have it as what? S plus h all squared. Now divided by h, the h will come here. And from this place, what do we need to do? We just need to simplify. And that will give us y prime is equals to s squared minus expand this, making use of binomial expansion. And that will give us what? S squared plus 2sh plus h squared. Now divided by x squared h into what? X plus h all squared. So from this place, x squared minus x squared will give us 0. And that will give us y prime is equals to expand. That will give us minus 2xh minus h squared over what? X squared h into what? S plus h squared. And from this, what do we need to do? Divide through by this h. That means we are going to divide the numerator by that h. So dividing the numerator by the h, what do we have? That will give us y prime is equals to minus 2x minus h over x squared into x plus h also. Now the basis of this again is we are only to divide through by h just one time. And after dividing through by h one time and you are still having h, that means we are going to limit our h to 0. So limit your h to 0. What do we have? That will give us what? Minus 2. This one will give us 0 over what? S squared. Put your h to be 0. What do we have? We have s squared. And this will give us 1 here. This will give us 1. And this will give us y prime is equal to what? Minus 2 over what? Over s cubed. And that is all about that. Now to solve it a little bit step further, let's look at this example again. They said if y is equal to 3x cubed plus 4x squared. They said we should find the value of y prime from the first principle. And how can we solve from the first principle? We have said it. We just need to know the formula, and that will give us what? F of what? S plus h minus f of x divided by h. And that will give us y prime is equal to, what is s plus h? That means anywhere we are seeing x, we are going to add h to it. And that will give us this. So we still have it as what? S plus h all squared. Now this is f of s plus h minus f of x. What is f of x? That will give us 3x squared plus 3x cubed plus 4x squared divided by what? H. And after making use of the formula, ours is just to simplify. So let's simplify this. Expand this from binomial expansion. That will give us s cubed plus 3x squared h plus 3xh squared plus h cubed. Expand this again. That will give us plus 4 into what? X squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Expand this minus 3x cubed minus 4x squared, then divided by h. And then we have to simplify. So this time this will give us x cubed, and 3x cubed we cancel this. This time this will give us 4x squared, and that we cancel this. Then we expand. And as we are expanding, let's divide through by h straight. So if we expand this, we have it as about 9x squared h. This time this will give us 9xh squared. This time this will give us 3h cubed. We have it as 8xh plus 4h squared. Then divided by h. So let's divide through by h. What do we have? We have it as 9x squared plus 9xh plus 3h squared plus 8x plus 4h. And now I've said this, we are only to divide through by h just one time. And after that, if h still exists, we limit our h to 0. So limiting your h to 0, what do we have? We have it as 9x squared plus what? Plus 8x. And that is all about the first principle. Now let's look at the next method. And the next method is making use of what? Of the formula method. And when we are talking of the formula method. So if we are talking of the formula method, we must know that if we have y of what? Of f of x, that will give us, our y prime will give us what? A n x into what? N minus 1. That means what is our a? Our a stands for what? Our constant. And what is our n? Our n stands for what? Power. So in every question, ours is just to get our constant. And as to is just to get our power, and then we make use of what? Of the formula. So for instance, they said if y is equals to 3x to the power 4 plus 9x cubed plus 6x, they said we should find the value of what? Of y prime. Y prime is still the same thing as the y dx. So how can we solve this? This will just give us what? The y dx is equal to our a here is 3 times n. That will give us 4 x into n minus 1. What is 4 minus 1? That will give us 3. The same thing, our a here is 9 times n. That will give us 3x into what? 3 minus 1. Plus our power here is 1. We have it as 6 times 1 x into what? 1 minus 1. And then we simplify further. And that will give us y prime is equal to this time. This will give us 12x cubed plus 27x squared plus what? 6x raised to the power 0. And anything raised to the power 0 will give us what? 1. And that will give us this. And that is all. So that is all about the formula method. But for the formula method, ours is just to multiply and subtract. And what are we saying about the principle of multiplying and subtract? Let's look at this. They said we should find the y dx. And how can we find the y dx? Just multiply and subtract. This time, this will give us 54x. Then remove 1 from 2. That will give us 1. And that is all. So for this again, let's look at this. Y is equal to 3x raised to the power 3 over 2. So how can we solve? Yours is just to what? Multiply and subtract. 3 times 3 over 2 will give us what? 9 over 2x. Now what is 3 over 2 minus 1? That will give us what? 1 over 2. And then you write it very well. Or that will now give us what? The square root of what? Of x. And that is that about the formula method. The next thing we need to know is anytime we are differentiating the constant, the differentiation of the constant is what? Is 0. For instance, if you are differentiating 7, 7 is a constant, it is 0. Now, how can we know that the differential of the constant is 0? Write a constant with respect to a variable, let's say x. So let's differentiate, you multiply, and then you subtract. So 0 times this will give us what? 0. And that is why the differential of the constant is what? 0. Now let's look at this. If y is equal to 3 over 2x raised to the power 7 over 3 plus 5x raised to the power 4 plus 6x plus the square root of x. The first thing we have to do here is to remove the square root of x and change it to what? A power of half. And then we differentiate by multiplying and subtracting. So that will give us what? The y over dx is equal to, now if you multiply this, that will give us 3 over 2 times 7 over 3. X into, then we remove 1 from this minus 1. Multiply this, that will give us what? Plus 20x cubed. Multiply this, the power here is 1, that will give us what? 6. Multiply this, the constant here is 1, that will give us what? 1 over 2 into this. Subtract this, that will give us minus half. And then you simplify 3, we cancel 3. And that will give us what? 7 divided by 2. X. Now, subtract this, 7 minus 3 will give us what? 4 over 3. Then we have it as what? Plus 20x cubed plus 6. Now this is indices, and that will give us what? Plus 1 over 2, the square root of x. And that is that about the formula method. Now let's keep on solving. Let's solve more questions on this before we move on to the rules of differentiation. Now, for example, we have a question like this. Y is equal to 6x raised to the power 5 plus 6x raised to the power 4 plus 5x cubed plus 6x divided by x. How can we solve this? The first thing we have to do here is just to what? To separate them. You divide through by x before you differentiate. If you divide through by x, what do we have? We have it as 6x4 plus 6x cubed plus 5x squared plus 6. And after that, you find your y prime. So differentiate this, that will give us what? 24x cubed plus what? 18x squared plus 10x. And if you differentiate the constant, the differential of the constant is what? Is 0. Now let's look at this again. We have something like this, 2x plus 5 into what? Let's say 5x minus 2. They are asking us to find y prime. So how can you differentiate? Though this is a product rule, but you can still solve it by expanding and then you differentiate. So before you differentiate, expand. This time this will give us what? 10x squared. This time this will give us minus 4x. This time this will give us plus 25x minus 10. And after that we have it as y is equal to 10x squared. Now subtract this, minus 4 plus this will give us 21x minus 10. And after that, you find your y prime. So differentiate is what we have 20x, differentiate is plus 21. And if you differentiate the constant, the differential of the constant will give us 0. And not to waste time, let us move on to the rules of differentiation. And when we are talking of the rules of differentiation, we want to look at what we term as what the product rule. We want to look at what we term as what as the function of a function. And function of a function, some textbook we call it what the chain rule, or some textbook we call it what the substitution method. We want to look at what we term as a trig function. We want to look at what we term as a logarithm function. We want to look at what we term as well the exponential function. We want to look at what we term as well the reciprocal function. We want to look at what we term as well the implicit function. We will now look at what we term as well the higher derivatives. And we will look at what we term as well the application of differentiation, and that is what we term as well the curve sketching, and what we term as well the rate of change. And also we will try to look at what we term as well the turning point. And this is what we are going to look at under differentiation. So under differentiation, we want to look at differentiation under this subheading. Now let's pick them one after the other and let us look at the product rule for the sake of this video. And if we are talking of the product rule, what is the meaning of product rule? Product rule simply means a function multiplying a function. So if you are having a function multiplying a function and you cannot expand, that means our y prime, which is your dy dx, will give us a formula which is what u dv dx plus what v du over dx. That means your first function is your u, you differentiate it. Your second function is your v, you differentiate it. For instance, let's look at this. They say y is equal to x cubed plus 4 into 2x cubed, or let's say 2x to the power 4 minus 5. They said we should find our y prime. So don't forget you can expand and differentiate, but because of product, let's look at the normal method, and that will give us u is the first function and your v is the second function. So since we are having our u and our v, then we differentiate. That will give us the u dx, differentiate this, that will give us 3x squared, and this will give us the v dx, differentiate this, that will give us what 8x cubed. And after this, then we now make use of the formula. And what is the formula? U. And what is your u? X cubed plus 4. The v dx, multiply it by 8x cubed plus v. What is your v? 2x raised to the power 4 minus 5 du dx, and multiply it by what? 3x squared. And after that, you simplify everything. So from this, if you want to simplify, what do we have? We have it as y prime is equal to this time, this will give us 8x raised to the power 6 plus what? 32x cubed plus this time, this will give us what? 6x raised to the power 6 minus 15x squared. And from this, our y prime will give us this, and this will give us 14x raised to the power 6 plus 32x cubed minus 15x squared. And that is that about that. So for us to look at more questions, let's end the video on this question. They said if y is equal to 2 root x plus 4 over x into 3 root x minus 5 over x, we are told to find our y prime. And how can we find our y prime? For this question, we are going to look at two methods, by expanding and using the product rule. So if you expand this, this will give us 6, this time this will give us x, and this time this will give us minus 10, the square root of x over x, this time this will give us plus 12, the root of x over x, this time this will give us minus 20 over what? Over x, and this will give us y is equal to 6x minus this, and this will give us plus 2 root x over x minus 20 over what? Over x squared. And from this, we have it as y is equal to 6x plus 2. Now, if you solve this very well, half and minus 1, we are going to have it as well x a power of what? Of minus half, minus 20x minus 2. And then you differentiate. Our y prime will give us, differentiate this, that will give us 6. This time this will give us minus 1x. Subtract 1 from this, that will give us minus 3 over 2. This time this will give us plus 40. Subtract 1 from this, minus 3. And your y prime will give us 6. We have differentiated this. Your y prime will give us 6 minus 1 over what? S a power of 3 over 2 plus 40 over what? Over SP. So for the sake of this video, this is where we are going to stop, and I will give you one assignment, and the assignment is for you to make use of product rule to solve this question, to arrive at this question. And don't forget, this function will be your u, this function will be your v, and then you find your du dx, you find your dv dx, and then you make use of what? Of the product rule. So for the sake of this introductory video on differential calculus, this is where we are going to stop. And don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and please don't forget to click on the subscription button.